is NBC Nightly News, Tuesday, April 5th, with John Chancellor and David Brinkley reporting from the NBC News Center in New York.
Good evening. Investigators said today that a hailstorm may have been responsible for the deaths of 68 people yesterday when this DC-9 jetliner crashed in Georgia. The plane was flying through hail said to have been the size of tennis balls. Hail so large and violent that it broke windows on the plane, including the windshield. More important, the hail may have caused the plane's two jet engines to flame out, leaving the pilot, Captain William McKenzie, with no power and very little chance of bringing his plane down safely. David has more on that.
Since he couldn't make it to the airport, he tried desperately to bring the plane down on Highway 92, 30 miles from Atlanta, and here's how that went. With a little luck, he might have made it. He brought it into 92, going in this direction, fairly smoothly, when the right wing hit an electric pole. That still didn't stop him until he got to Newman's Grocery and hit a parked car and the grocery, knocked over the gas pumps, started a fire. That started the plane to spinning, tore it apart, and the wreckage wound up over here in a vacant lot. Here's a report from the scene, and Kenley Jones.
This is something like the view that the pilot of the twin-engine DC-9 had from the cockpit as he realized time had run out. He had to put the plane down. He settled on a stretch of road running through the small community of New Hope. But the road wasn't wide enough, and for most of the passengers, there was no hope left. The wing of the plane sheared off utility poles and hit a small grocery store. The store was demolished, along with several cars parked outside. A family of 7 died in one of the cars. The plane bounced down the road, finally coming to a stop in a clump of pines where it exploded into flames. Both the pilot and co-pilot were killed. Only a few got out alive.
Was maneuvering that plane up to, without stalling the plane and crashing it. He actually landed the plane into the road as best as any pilot possibly could. And I guess if it wasn't for the utility poles and a couple of utility poles, he probably would have slid fairly straight, and I'm sure there would have been twice the number of survivors.
One of the survivors is Don Foster, a licensed pilot. He believes the engines were drowned out by a violent hailstorm.
The first time we got into hail, it wasn't real bad. Then we went into a second area of hail that was real heavy and real bad, and at that point we got the lightning strike, and at that point the right engine went out, and I was sitting right by the left engine, and it was obvious that it was going out too.
The head of the federal team investigating the crash says heavy ingestion of water from hail or rain could have caused the engines to flame out.
Would a pilot be likely to know that this rain was going to be that heavy until he got in it?
He would know from weather forecasts and from ground-based radar that there was weather in the area. However, he might not know that it was intense in where he was heading, as it turned out to be.
A Southern spokesman said the plane was equipped with weather radar in the cockpit and that it was operating at the time of the crash. He blamed the crash on a freak storm of violent intensity which could not have been detected on the radar screen.
The investigators say at this point they know of nothing humanly possible that could have been done to prevent the crash, either before or after events set it in motion. They point out that their investigation is not yet complete. Kenley Jones, NBC News, Atlanta.
Late this afternoon, there was another fatal plane crash, this one in New York City. 7 people were killed, and a 14-year-old boy was critically injured when a 2-engine propeller plane on its way from Kentucky to LaGuardia Airport crashed in a park 2 miles from the airfield. Officials think the pilot may have got lost in a thick fog, even though he was flying on instruments. David?
And this morning, an American Airlines 707 took off from St. Louis and lost one of its 4 engines. The captain circled the city for 2 hours to burn fuel and lighten the plane, and then he landed safely and skillfully. John?
Also on the program this evening, some very bad storms and flooding around the country. A new proposal on food stamps. President Sadat of Egypt and Washington, and a vote for a secession on Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket.
That's good pasture land. You never know, it used to be a surface strip mine. But just a few years ago, it looked like this, a big, ugly hole in the ground. After they got the coal out, I got the job of re-landscaping it. I'm Jake Howland. I work for Gulf Oil. Increase the angle of blade attack. We should be able to move more dirt fast. To re-landscape old surface mines, we had to find better ways to move more dirt than ever before. No standard bulldozer could move such huge volumes of dirt as efficiently as we wanted. We had to develop our own. Let's do it. Finally, we could resurface 3 to 4 acres a day at half the cost. These machines make it practical to re-landscape old surface mines. Gulf's making this technology available to the whole industry to make it easier to convert old mines into parks, farms, or pastures. It's a big challenge, but we're meeting it.
Gulf people meeting the challenge.
So far, it has been a rough spring. Tornadoes in Alabama killed about 20 people and may have caused the plane crash near Atlanta. And in western Virginia and Kentucky, huge rainstorms and floods. In some places, only the tops of two-story houses showing above the water. Here are 2 reports.
By daybreak, at least 24 were dead from tornadoes in Alabama, 19 of them in this one black neighborhood of North Birmingham. The bodies of a young mother and her daughter were pulled from the rubble just this afternoon. Her son was discovered alive in the debris later today. Shocked families returned to North Birmingham to see what was left of their homes. Lincoln Blue found the second floor of his house on top of the foundation. The roof and his car were 200 feet away. Nearby, a blanket dangled from a tree. Michael Dent loaded his son's toys into a pickup truck and prepared to move in with his brother. Mrs. Dent seemed stunned.
The only thing we do is try to start all over again, rebuild and work hard and try to do it again. That's all.
A neighbor of the Dents, Narvey Butler, grieved over his loss.
Bad luck, this is all to it.
Where do you go from here?
I guess we'll probably build. I may turn around and sell it. I don't know.
His mother tried to save a battered piece of drapery. Butler's nephew, Matthew, seemed unaware of what was going on, but others in North Birmingham were all too aware of what had happened. People who live around here say this is Tornado Alley. The devastating storms seem to come every spring, but this one will be remembered as one of the worst. Robert Hager, NBC News, Birmingham, Alabama.
There was still widespread flooding today from the flash floods that struck cities and towns throughout Appalachia during the night. The Cumberland River spilled over its banks throughout southeastern Kentucky. In Harlan, Kentucky, 4 people were killed. Today, residents tried to clean up as best they could, but the damage was massive. Larry and Loretta Harris came home to get their belongings, but there wasn't much.
The floodwaters were receding in most areas by late this evening, but the damage will take months and months to repair. Robert Vizell, NBC News, Harlan, Kentucky.
If you're a Vietnam veteran and you think your less than honorable discharge should be upgraded, the government has set up a toll-free telephone number you can call. The number is 800-325-4040. Someone will be on hand every day of the week from 8 in the morning until 9 in the evening Eastern Time to take your call. You can find out where to apply and what your chances are. This applies under a presidential program to men with discharges called less than honorable, but not to those with bad conduct or dishonorable discharges. David?
A real-life political drama at the White House this afternoon. The Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill of Massachusetts, and Senator Edward Kennedy of Massachusetts came out from a meeting with President Carter with a look of 2 men solidly satisfied, their labors rewarded. They were pleased to announce, they said, that Fort Devens, Massachusetts would not be closed.
The Burns House, Richmond, Virginia. Reynolds Aluminum Building Products have changed it from an energy waster to an energy saver, reducing fuel bills 30%, or $363 each winter, and saving even more in paint and upkeep. Your savings may vary depending on construction and climate. To find out how much Reynolds Building Products could save you, Get this booklet by calling 800-243-6000.
Reynolds Aluminum, conserving our resources and energy.
Oh, what a night. Mama stuffed zucchini with garlic sauce. Aunt Fanny's flaming Swedish meatballs. And 3 minutes of conversation with my nitwit cousin Iggy. Such a heartburn. I need relief, and make it fast.
Alka-2 gives you fast relief. It chews fast, and it works fast, too. Alka-2 is built to fall apart fast.
Cool and creamy. Not as chalky, not as gritty. Alka-2, when you need relief from heartburn, make it fast.
President Carter sent his plans for reforms of the food stamp program up to Congress today. He accompanied his proposals with a warning that if Congress appropriates more than the $5.5 billion Mr. Carter wants to spend, he will veto that bill. Under the new plan, some families which couldn't get food stamps will now be eligible. Here are two reports.
President Carter's proposal to reform the food stamp program was outlined to the House Agriculture Committee today by Agriculture Secretary Bob Berglund. Under the president's plan, the cost of the food stamp program would remain about the same, about $5.5 billion a year. And the benefits for most people who would continue to receive the stamps would be about the same. But recipients would no longer have to make partial cash payments to receive the stamps. The Agriculture Secretary said 2.5 million poor people don't get food stamps because they don't have the money to pay for them. The president also wants to tighten eligibility requirements by lowering the eligible income from $6,500 to $5,500 a year. This would end the benefits to 1.5 million people now receiving them.
I believe the food stamp program stands in need of serious reform. It needs to be made more accessible to those in need. At present, some persons who may not need stamps are getting them, while others who are in need of stamp assistance are not being reached by the program.
The Agriculture Secretary admitted all these proposed reforms of the food stamp program will only be temporary if the Carter administration's overall welfare reform plan is adopted. Under that plan, the food stamp program would be eliminated altogether. But he said such a move is at least 2 years away. Douglas Kiker, NBC News at the Capitol.
The major benefit for those who qualify for the new food stamp proposal is they won't have to pay for the stamps, but that also means they would get fewer stamps. Under the present system, when a person cashes a welfare check, he has a choice of accepting the total amount in cash or buying an authorized amount of food stamps. And some people say they cannot buy food stamps because they need the money for other things. For example, 61-year-old Minabelle Kennard often has to go food shopping with the welfare money that's left over after paying other expenses. She supports 2 teenage grandchildren, and she says sometimes she just cannot afford to buy food stamps.
I just go pay the most important bills. The things like utilities that we have to keep the lights on. We have to keep the gas. So I pay the gas and light bills, and we just do without.
You mean do without food stamps?
Yeah, we do without the food.
The new government proposal would mean some people would be disqualified, but those who need food stamps most would not have to go without them. Al Johnson, NBC News, Chicago.
The Senate Banking Committee had some controversy about the Arabs' trade boycott with Israel and with American and other companies doing business with Israel. There were charges in committee the president was not as firm on this as he was during the campaign, that he now sees it differently, they said. Then they passed an amendment they said would preserve trade with the Arab states and prevent a cutoff of oil. Some members said the law had been gutted. President Sadat of Egypt brought with him to Washington a sizable shopping list. He wants weapons. Here is Marilyn Berger in Washington.
Egyptian President Sadat waited till his second day of meetings with President Carter to present his request for American weapons. Sadat has said he wants F-5 jet aircraft and anti-tank missiles, which he describes as defensive. He got no commitments, at least in part because the Carter administration has undertaken a complete review of American policy on arms sales to foreign countries. The two presidents also continued their talks on how to bring the Palestinians into negotiations on the Middle East. Mr. Sadat has proposed an alliance between Jordan and the Palestinians to get around Israeli objections to a separate Palestinian delegation. White House officials said Mr. Carter agreed to give serious consideration to an Egyptian request for a $7.5 million navigational study of the waters of the Gulf of Suez, to be carried out by the U.S. Navy. A White House spokesman also said the two presidents shared a deep concern about recent events in Africa, a reference to Soviet intrusion there. They agreed that conflicts in the region should not be aggravated by non-African powers. Marilyn Berger, NBC News, the White House.
Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev added his criticisms today of the United States proposals on banning nuclear weapons. But by comparison with what Foreign Minister Andrei Gromyko had to say about this last week, Brezhnev was mild today. He called the American offer one-sided. Gromyko had characterized it as dubious, if not cheap. 100 Americans are in Havana for a little basketball diplomacy with the Cubans. 10 from the University of South Dakota and South Dakota State will play. But as Senator James Aberesk said jokingly, this is the largest group of Americans to come to Cuba since the Bay of Pigs.
Your father's father's father asked for it. Your father's father asked for it. Your father asked for it. And today, more fathers ask for it than ever before. Mothers, too. Generation after generation, quality has made Pennzoil the ask-for motor oil. Robert Young for Sanka brand decaffeinated coffee.
I think it's important to work off tension. Exercise and fresh air all help, but some of us who have a problem with caffeine have to go further. That's why doctors advise millions of people like me to switch to Sanka brand decaffeinated coffee. It has that fresh coffee aroma and taste. There's no caffeine to make me nervous, and I really feel good. Sanka brand is the coffee you can feel good about.
The unions wanted from Washington a common site picketing law. They didn't get it. They wanted a $3 minimum wage. They didn't get it. They wanted a higher tariff on imported shoes. They didn't get that either. They're not happy. Here's Irving R. Levine in Washington.
The union leaders attacked the Carter decision on shoe imports, claiming it will put Americans out of work.
April 1st, President Jimmy Carter really played a cruel joke on 170,000 American shoe workers.
At lunch, the criticism was carried much further by the heir apparent to AFL-CIO President George Meany. Lane Kirkland said President Carter broke a campaign promise in his economic package.
On the bottom line of that package, you can read the message. There ain't gonna be no full employment here for the next 4 years. Chalk up another one for business and scratch another promise.
Kirkland also criticized the White House for favoring a lower minimum wage than labor does.
The message is simple and clear. Inflation is to be fought at the expense of its primary victims, and the poor will always be with us.
In effect, Lane Kirkland accused the Carter administration of breaking faith with organized labor and of favoring business interests instead. But the AFL-CIO leader stopped short of attacking President Carter personally. That's because union leaders recognize Jimmy Carter's popularity in the polls and with many union members, and are worried that any personal attack on the president could boomerang against the union leaders. Irving R. Levine, NBC News, Washington.
11 men who were elected to the House of Representatives last November got together today. All of them were blue-collar workers before they were elected. They think their class should have a greater voice in the government. Today they did something about that, and Charles Rose has the story.
The Congress is supposed to be representative of the American people, but over 50% are lawyers and more than 25% are businessmen and bankers. Only one is a house painter. He is Congressman Edward Beard of Rhode Island. Beard never earned more than $9,000 a year before he came to Congress. He wants to see people like him have a greater voice in government. So today, Beard announced the formation of the Blue Collar Caucus, a group of 11 congressmen with working-class backgrounds. They include a pipe fitter, Young of Missouri, a boxer, Yatron of Pennsylvania. A longshoreman, Myers of Pennsylvania. A printer, Simon of Illinois. And a bartender, Burton of California. Their goal is to represent blue-collar views and to get more blue-collar representatives.
I want people to realize that regardless what your background is, whether you're a security guard in this building, whether you're a janitor in this building, if you want to run for high office, you should run. Don't consider yourself less. Don't consider yourself in a light that, no, I should not participate, because the normal tradition is that you have to be wealthy or come from a big name family in a city or a town to go for high office. We want to break that image, and I think we have accomplished that today.
Congressman Beard says he intends to let underrepresented blue-collar workers know that all laws are not made by the rich. They also include the experiences of people who have worked with their hands. Charles Rose, NBC News, Washington.
In 1973, Congress voted a kind of civil rights law for the physically handicapped. All public buildings using any federal money, for example, had to have ramps for wheelchairs. In Washington, at the HEW building today, groups of the handicapped came to protest. The law, they said, has never been put in effect. It hasn't, because, says HEW, the rules to put it in effect are so complicated it has taken time to work them out. But Secretary Califano promised today he would sign the rules by next month. John?
Another argument on saccharin was advanced today. Dr. David P. Rawle, an assistant surgeon general and a senior government health official, said that it is highly likely that saccharin can cause cancer in humans. It definitely causes cancer in animals. Further, Dr. Rawle said that even 2 bottles of saccharin-sweetened soft drinks a day, consumed for a long period of time, probably could cause cancer in some people.
Now there's a new ball that's even longer than Spalding Top Flight, and proved it just like Top Flight in distance tests with golfers. This new ball not only beats the other leading balls by up to 14 yards, it also does what no other ball has done. It beats the unbeatable Top Flight, introducing the ball that beats the longest ball, the new, even longer Top Flight. Now the longest ball is even longer.
At West Bend, we knew you were interested in Oriental Wok cooking, but you wanted it made easy. So we built you the West Bend Electric Wok. Just dial the temperature, and the bowl shape concentrates heat, so you can stir fry, make deep fry tempura, simmer, stew, right at the table. Great fun, great meals, Oriental or American. The West Bend Electric Wok, the one you helped design, from West Bend, where craftsmen still care.
Take a look at someone who takes Geritol.
I'm a single woman with a career that means a lot to me. I work hard, and I love it. And because I want to make as much of myself as I can, I try to do the right things to take good care of myself. One thing I do is take Geritol every day.
Geritol, to be sure you get enough iron and some very important vitamins.
I have a positive attitude about my career and my life. And that's one reason why I take Geritol every day.
They've been voting for freedom on Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, freedom from the state of Massachusetts, which has taken away their state representatives. The islands have had their own representatives in Boston since 1696. The votes were non-binding, but the sentiment was clear. Lee McCarthy has the story.
The secessionists took their case to the voters for the first time yesterday. On Nantucket, the turnout was heavy, almost twice the number expected. The island voted 4-1 to secede. The voting on Nantucket was by secret ballot, but in Chilmark, on Martha's Vineyard, the question of secession was taken up by the town meeting.
They're taking our voice out of Boston. That will leave these islands so vulnerable that we will be open to any and all of the vagaries of the wills of those people who get elected from other parts of the state.
I think that Massachusetts is a wonderful state. I want no part of Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, or even Maine. New York, Texas, and Mississippi are personally repugnant to me. And New Mexico, as you know, as well as Arizona, seem to be having very major crime problems.
There was no voice vote, which was once the custom. Instead, there was a secret ballot. The town secretary said that has become the popular way to decide sticky political issues. When the votes were finally counted, the town of Chilmark had voted for secession 4-1. The votes are not binding. The ferry to the mainland did not stop running. Other towns on the vineyard will not vote on secession for a week or more. But a trend clearly has been established, and the man who handles tourism for the state of Massachusetts has already expressed his concern. This thing could get out of hand, he said. It could get serious. Lee McCarthy, NBC News, Martha's Vineyard.
The mother of invention may be necessity, but it can also be an outrageous price, as in the case of coffee at more than $4 a pound. The invention, says the General Foods Corporation today, is a new product that is part coffee and part roasted wheat, a mixture of bran and molasses, in both ground and instant forms at about half the price of coffee. And they say it tastes somewhat the same. This was unsettling news to coffee speculators, and it caused the market in coffee futures to drop. Thank you, and good night for all of us at NBC News.
This jar is in almost every country in the world. That's because in every country in the world, there are beautiful women who want to stay beautiful. And what's in this jar has helped beautiful women all over the world stay beautiful. What's in this jar is beauty cream. The name on this jar is Pond's. Pond's Cold Cream. It helps make the world more beautiful.
It doesn't cramp my style.
It doesn't cramp my style.
What doesn't cramp my style? Phillips, milk of magnesia. When I have constipation, I rely on Phillips. It really works, and it doesn't interfere with my day.
Unlike most laxatives, Phillips formula puts your natural body water to work, drawing it to where it's needed to soften and lubricate. Relieves constipation in hours, usually without cramps. Phillips, regular, chocolate, or mint.
It really works, and it doesn't cramp your style.
First time on TV, When the North Wind Blows. Henry Brandon and Dan Haggerty star in this adventure story about an old trapper who befriends a 750-pound snow tiger. See When the North Wind Blows, the NBC Movie of the Week, tonight at 8, 7 Central and Mountain Time.
Well, it's a hillbilly old-fashioned bread. Stands right up to any old spread. Made of oatmeal, corn flour, and crushed wheat. Nursing grains you love to eat. Sugar, honey, shortening yeast. Make breakfast a real hillbilly feast. Nourishing too, that's what I said. Hillbilly old-fashioned bread. I say hillbilly, hillbilly, hillbilly old-fashioned bread. It's colossal.
I had 5 last night.
Me, I ate 7.
I had to stop at 4.
How many crab legs did I eat? Well, they were so good I lost count.
At Red Lobster, for a limited time, you get all the crab legs you can eat, plus coleslaw, hush puppies,